here from Grand Prix Indianapolis. And hello and welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Indianapolis. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Kenji Egashira. It's time for round 7, where we've got the cut lined up for you here. So we've got two teams at 5-1. One of them with the win, Kenji. They will be safely into day 2. Now they're going to have to come back and play that last round, of course. That will dictate how good their record is going into day 2. But with the win here, even with a loss in the next round, they're going to be in. So you've got Austin Bursavich, Seth Manfield, and Ben Friedman playing against Anthony Ho, Ralph Batesh, and Ryan Hare. So this is a wide range of professional players that we're seeing here, Kenji. Some of them are professional Magic players, but not necessarily full-timers. And some of them are absolutely full-time professional Magic players. And we got Seth Manfield here. He's #1 in the world right now, for example. Ooh, is that a Wayward Swordtooth?
That is a Wayward Swordtooth.
Wow. So that is a 5/5 that allows Anthony to play an extra land each turn. But it can't attack or block until he gets the City's Blessing. And it can take a while to do that. Though that being said, he's already at 7.
Yeah, I think that card is much more versatile in Sealed than it is in Draft. Although in Draft you can kind of build around it, maybe get a lot of the token producers and whatnot.
God,
but
can you? I'm skeptical of it, Kenji.
Even just a Squire's Devotion does a lot of work with that card. And remember, it allows you to play multiple lands a turn. It's not like an Oracle of Moldio or, say, Corso or Crewfix type effect, though, but it has very real upside. Both these players on green-white, though, which is maybe not a color combination you would expect necessarily in this format. As you can see, though, the Attican Seer Austin Bursavich had. They're both probably playing some combination of Dino synergies, I would imagine. Oh, look at that. Surprise Mountain off of that Evolving Wilds there. And
Anthony Ho's throwing a little curveball here at Austin Bursavich. He still, though, is pretty far away. He needs 3 more permanents before he's going to get the City's Blessing and start rumbling.
Trying to find out what Anthony might be splashing red for. Looks like he's kind of solidly 3 colors. No true 2-color type. See that Needletooth Raptor there.
That card is very, very scary to play against, the Needletooth Raptor.
Especially
it's only a 2/2 for 4 mana,
right.
So when you play it, you're like, yeah, whatever. But, man, it just has so many ways to interact with it that gets a lot of your opponent's creatures dead. You and I were talking about that on the Uber ride from the airport, Kenji, and one of your favorites was the Forerunner of the Empire.
Yep, that's one of the best ways to continuously deal 1 damage to it, while also shooting your opponent's creatures. Raging Regisaur is another one, 4/4 for 4, that when it attacks you get to shoot a creature or player.
Yeah, you ping 1 for 1 damage,
exactly.
And you can do your own. All right, now he's 1 away from getting that Wayward Swordtooth into the red zone or blocking or whatever it is that he wants to do with it.
Yeah, it's not so good of an attacker here standalone as the 3/3/3s from Austin do a real nice. Well,
oh my God! Look at what he's got. He's got 5 3/3s. 4 of them have trample. And look at that. He also gets his City's Blessing. Now you might say, well, why does he get it? None of his creatures care. Arch of Araska down there. Perfect land to have late in the game after you kind of ran out of gas.
Right. I love that card. It's just 5 mana, tap it. Once you have the City's Blessing, draw a card.
Right. In the early and mid part of the game, it's a little bit of a liability as it's a land that only produces colorless mana. But in the late part of the game, it can absolutely take over. By the way, speaking of the City's Blessing, ba-dow, there it is. And that means that the Wayward Swordtooth is now live. But as you said, trading off for one of 5 3/3s doesn't look particularly appealing and is a much better blocker at this point, so he's going to leave it back.
Yeah, we're probably going to need to see a big swingy effect like Strength of the Pack for somebody to push through. That or a flyer. A flyer on this board looks great. Although Anthony, you know, can start attacking with that Needletooth Raptor should Austin get a flyer. But the thing is, the longer he waits, the more Anthony's going to, or rather Austin's going to pull ahead, drawing extra cards off of his land.
Overgrown Armasaur. And the defense keeps growing here for Austin Bursavich. You know, for fundamentally green, white, red, you know, a dinosaur deck, how do they punch through what Austin is lining up here?
He's just going to...
He's got 19 toughness? Yeah. Like...
Again, one of those mass pump effects like Strength of the Pack would really be beneficial here. A flyer, he could be running something like a Shining Aerosaur for his white, or Majestic Heliopterus would be pretty good here.
There you go. He played a Baffling End to take down one of the tokens. It just gets exiled. But Baffling End still does have that downside where if Austin has an answer for it, he'll get that token back, actually. It's kind of a fair transaction.
And green-white are the colors for enchantment removal.
But here we go. This is Arch of Haraska starting to take over the game slowly. He activated it main phase past the turn. And we could have a real standoff here because at least as it sits, how are we getting through these?
Well, eventually Austin's going to pull so far ahead with card advantage that he might start attacking, letting maybe a 4-4 trade for a 3-3 until he can just overwhelm that way. It's going to take some while, but as you can hear the players say, we're going to be here a while.
Yeah, you know, I think that maybe one of the teammates was like, hey, how's your game going? As you can see, Seth Manfield having picked up game number 1, he may have said, you know, hey, Austin, how's your game? I'll get back to you. Take a rain check because we're going to be sitting here a while. Now, one way, there's pious interdiction, by the way, from Anthony, that he could get this going is if he found one of those repeated effects that you talked about a little while ago with the Needletooth Raptor, right? If he can trigger that thing 3-4 times, that will mow down the board quickly, and there are ways to do it. He just doesn't seem to have any now. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Look at this. Boom! He's attacking.
Well, baby. Well, so he only has a green and a red open right now, but it looks like all of the creatures he's attacking with have at least 3 power, so on the surface of things, this is just going to be straight-up trades across the board.
But you know how that is when your opponent's playing Crested Herd Caller and you're trading for one token or one half of it?
I think that's okay, though, because a lot of the creatures he's trading away are 2-drops and 3-drops.
Okay.
So as far as mana cost is concerned, he's gaining some there.
I'm not worried about that.
Right, but
I'm worried about cards, buddy.
He's still getting in for some damage as well, and since he's leading this race, you know, things are actually not too bad. Like, look at the board clear now. He's still left with that Hardy Veteran, which is a 3-3 while Austin's turn.
I am not loving this. Like, I don't mind that the board's cleared off, but when that happens, Austin should be way ahead on cards.
Right, and he is.
He traded half a card for a Baffling End and then another half a card for a creature.
And you actually see here Austin attacking in.
Yeah, he's jamming. Anthony, with plenty of life total to deal with, says, we're good. Let's take it. And a Hardy Veteran of his own. He's also got a Shining Aerosaur, so full use of mana there for Austin Bursavich.
Would not be surprised to see Anthony just attack in with that Needletooth Raptor now, as he'd be, I think, more than happy to trade it away with the Shining Aerosaur. But, and again, if, you know, Austin blocks the Hardy Veteran, he gets to just 2 for 1. Yeah,
he's really forcing Austin to either take 2, which is an option, he's at 9, or to trade off with the Aerosaur. And, you know, I think if I were Austin, I'd be quite happy to do that.
Oh, baby, though.
Ooh, Verdant Sun's Avatar is a follow-up play here for Anthony Ho. His life total was already significantly ahead of Austin's, but now it's going to make racing, at least for the next few turns, pretty difficult for Austin Bursavich. Though I do believe that Anthony Ho's getting pretty close to being out of gas here. So
right.
Ooh, here's Hunt the Week, and that's going to take down the Verdant Sun's Avatar right away. And he even gets Saproling out of the deal. So a nice play there from Austin.
Yeah, and now Austin is firmly in the lead.
Thinking about sending that Veteran in there?
Yeah, the Veteran doesn't make too much sense as it just bounces us off.
He must have a pump spell or something. Because he's really thinking about it here.
I mean, it's kind of a free roll attack if you don't have any other creature on the battlefield.
Right, but it
because you're not blocking with it.
Right. Yeah, so it looks like he's decided, I might actually need to block with this, so I'm going to leave everything back. And that's smart. I mean, look, if you're in Austin Bursavich's seat and you're at anywhere near parity, you just look down at that Arch of Araska, you're good to go. Just keep drawing cards, turn after turn.
Yeah, I think Austin was just saying, yeah, I think I'm winning here at the Arch.
Yeah.
If you caught that.
I didn't hear it, but I believe it. Well, hunt the week number 2. And this is going to clear the way for a mighty attack here. 7 damage. And he has a random 2-drop Deep Root Warrior, which isn't particularly great here, but whatever.
All right, that's really good for Anthony. That was one of the flyers he was looking for earlier in the game.
3-turn clock, though he loses the race currently, but of course he has a blocker for now. Oh wow, that was no hesitation, Kenji. Austin just turned them all sideways, and that can't be good for Anthony Ho. It's hard to imagine that Austin's bluffing.
It's so hard here for Anthony to block. I mean, maybe you can block the sapling, but even then, like Crash the Ramparts gets you. If your opponent has Divine Verdict, that's going to get you regardless. So maybe he just realizes, he's going to have to block and see what happens.
So he's going to block the biggest creature that he can, and I couldn't see what the
aggressive urge.
Aggressive urge there from Austin Bursavich, and that's perfect for this situation. Remember, the warrior gets +1/+1 after getting blocked, and an additional +1/+1. And wow!
Hand dump.
Austin Bursavich just dumps his hand. Another hardy veteran hits the battlefield. And by the way, that is going to do it. The Ceratops of no consequence this time. So we are going to see game 1s going to both Seth Manfield and Ben Friedman and Austin Bursavich. So a clean sweep for the team on the left-hand side of your screen there. And Anthony Ho, Ralph Batesh, and Ryan Hare, boy, they have some work to do. Remember, these teams are playing here in the cut, which means that the winning team is going to be in day 2, though they'll still have to play another round after this. Losing team does have a chance to be in day 2 as well, but they put themselves in a situation where they must win next round or they're out.
Pretty ideal Merfolk start
yeah,
here
this looks
for Ralph.
Really good. Silvergill Adept and a Deep Root Elite, though it looks like Seth Manfield wants to take care of that Deep Root Elite right now, and you know why. I think it's out of hand very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you don't want to let Ralph untap for multiple reasons. Just too many combat tricks, too many, dive down effects that can really get you, especially since Reaver Ambush, the creature has to have 3 power or less.
Exactly. You don't want to wait. Oh, but here's a way to come right back from that.
Yeah, one of my favorite
Curious
uncommons.
Obsession. Yeah, this is a really neat little card. It is a narrow, right? It makes you attack. I mean, not literally, but it highly encourages you to attack. And you do need to be able to get in with the card. But this is a really interesting use of it, right? He put it down while the coast was clear. Oh! You hear him laughing? That's your favorite card in the set, right?
That is, absolutely. Golden Demise.
Golden Demise is high on your list. I know that. And he should have waited.
I think you get 2 tokens off the aquatic incursion.
You definitely get 2.
There we go.
There it is.
I mean, that'd be great here if Seth was maybe at like 7 or something, a lot lower, but he's stabilized pretty well at 15. Not too hard to think he's playing some number of lifelink cards as well, as we saw an Oathsworn Vampire hit the battlefield there. Yeah,
of course it enters the battlefield tap, so it's not going to do a ton here. And that's a Martyr of Dusk is the follow-up play. Both of those look good here. Yeah. I mean, I think that Seth would be quite thrilled if Ralph started just dumping mana in. Oh, now there's some business.
Okay, that's actually real nice for Ralph. Can you imagine if Seth didn't have that Golden Demise? This game would have been over.
Yes, it would have been absolutely over. He would have had a huge board state.
But hey, 6 mana to put two 1/1 counters on your hexproof creatures.
Right.
Ones that you can make unblockable.
And that was a big hit right now from Strength of the Pack as well, right? I mean, he got in for the full 6 there. And you mentioned, hey, if Seth was at a little bit lower life total. Well, now he is. Sanguine Glorifier's the follow-up play here for Manfield, but he's got real problems because he has no lifelink going. And it looks like it's going to be really tough for him to race, but he's kind of forced to.
Yeah, Ralph's not obligated to develop anything on the board. He can just make unblockable multiple turns in a row. Now, it is expensive. It costs 4.
Right.
So should Seth find, Mark of the Vampire, Squire's Devotion, then things can get a little dicey.
He's just going to try to race, I guess. He figures, well, I can trade off for 1, take go down to
Right.
6, and then he has to just dump all of his mana for the rest of the game to kill me.
The real problem would be like a bounce spell here. Crashing Tide on the Sanguine Glorifier would allow Ralph to get in for 6.
And is effectively end the
Right.
game. Yeah. Yeah, unblockable hexproof creatures. Not much Seth is going to be able to do there. So let's see if Ralph has it.
I mean, even just an attack without giving them unblockable is still good, should
Yep.
Seth not have a trick. This looks like a Water Knot maybe, double blue.
Yep, there it is. Water Knot, good read, Kenji. And that effectively should end the game, as Ralph Batesh can attack for 6 damage, knocking Seth down to 3.
How about 7?
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's just a little insurance policy with the Jade Bearer there as a blocker, but relevancy low. I suppose he could just try to make sure that in case there is some life gain from Seth, he has a little bit better of an attacker there.
Right.
But the truth is, I think we're going to have our first game win towards Ralph Batesh's direction here, because Oathsworn Vampire doesn't have lifelink.
It's not going to be easy for Seth to pull out of this one.
Especially not with a Sky Marcher Aspirant here on turn 8 or whatever. It's that is not going to do it.
Yeah, the most notable thing is that the common ways to gain life in vampires at instant speed, so Moment of Triumph, Moment of Craving, those only gain 2 life, and so making the 4/4 unblockable is still going to kill him unless he has at least 2 of those methods.
Yeah, you know, and I think that Ralph was actually playing towards that, which is why he played the Jade Bearer, even though it looked a little like win more, right? But it actually did give him a way to reasonably deal with 2 common and commonly played cards in the format. So well done by Ralph Batesh. He picks up the first game there and evens things up, though his teammates, he's going to look to left and to right and say, guys,
what's going on?
Help a brother out here. You guys are all down a game. And Atsakan Seer looks like it's going to go ahead and block. It's a 2/4 Hardy Veteran.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
Bursavich says, you know what, I'm not scared, man.
Just a free roll attack, because remember, the Hardy Veteran gets +0/+2 on your turn, so
Uh-oh.
Anthony doesn't actually have great blocks with his own Hardy Veteran. Might as well see if
There's a Needletooth Raptor again.
gets in for 2 points of damage.
Bursavich looks like he's not interested in tapping that Atsakan Seer for mana. He's just getting in.
Oh, yeah. I like that attack. I mean, both of your creatures survive the Needletooth Raptor combat damage-wise by itself, and so it would just be a straight-up 1-for-1.
And that's a scary card, man. I mean, you're sitting in Austin Bursavich's seat. You talk about those enablers that you and I talked about earlier, where you can repeatedly activate it, the Enrage ability on Needletooth Raptor, and that is a way to lose a board state, and not just, you know, a bunch of 1/1 vampires. We're talking about beating real cards here. So I think he would love to trade off either of these for the Raptor. Well, this is awkward. So it's a Wayward Swordtooth, but it looks like he just passed the turn. So no extra land drop. It means he's got all spells in hand, which is good for Austin. I mean, bad for Austin, excuse me. But, you know, Anthony's going to just be staring at that Swordtooth that doesn't do anything for a little while.
Yeah, he's at 7 permanents right now.
Yeah.
I like that non-attack with the Raptor. Austin left up 4 mana that turn and also didn't play a 5-drop with the Seer, so could be kind of telling of a Divine Verdict, which is a pretty clean answer to the Raptor.
Interestingly, he still represents it here, right?
Oh, yeah. But it's better on blocks because at least you get or you save some life as opposed to just missing out on anything.
Yeah, it's still just Anthony has to make that choice on would I like to lose this. And it's going to be Evolving Wilds Go. So similar turns back to back here. Not much change. The Wayward Swordtooth didn't change anything. Anthony literally tapped 3 mana and nothing happened. he added to his board a permanent. That's it.
This is a permanent.
Yes. But as you mentioned, he is sitting at 7 permanents and could potentially work his way up to that Wayward Swordtooth actually getting to start attacking and or blocking. Evolving Wilds is going to get cracked here for Bursavich, but once again, Anthony declines to attack, very much respecting the possibility of a Divine Verdict.
Yeah, now maybe he's looking at a double block type deal, because if Austin doesn't have anything, he can double block one of the creatures and then kill the other one should the Needletooth Raptor take damage, although it's most likely that it wouldn't, in which case, he's just trading Hardy Veteran for one of the creatures. Speaking
of Hardy Veteran, looks like we're going to have a little Hardy Veteran bar brawl here. There's a Hunt the Weak.
Well, now it's Anthony is that the one is holding up mana, so we could see a trick here in response.
What is it going to be?
Oh, is this a Reckless Rage? Nice.
It really is. So that's going to do 4 to the 2/4 Hardy Veteran, and then 2 to the Needletooth Raptor.
Yep.
Then the Raptor's going to say, well, I'm mad now. It's going to die. But also, it's going to do 5 over to the Atsakan Seer.
Correct.
So there is a lot of stack, a lot of triggers, and a lot of damage flying around right now. But if this all goes well, Anthony Ho could come out ahead.
Yep. And the best part is there's no dinosaur in the graveyard of Austin Bursavich, so he doesn't get to sack the Seer in response. He does have an aggressive Urge, though, so that's going to save his creature for the moment, but that doesn't actually do all that much, right? Because it still has to fight the Hardy Veteran now.
Yes.
So his creature is still going to die, so we're just going to have a mass board wipe.
So he basically was just cycling the aggressive Urge because he wanted to get out of his hand while he still had a creature?
Okay, but Anthony messed up there. He didn't realize that the Hunt the Weak was still going to resolve in response to that. And so now what Anthony did was he redirected the Needletooth damage to the Hardy Veteran itself. And so now instead of...
So he gets to keep his Hardy Veteran, but he lets Austin keep
the Seer.
Oh, you would have liked to see the board cleaned up from there, wouldn't you?
Exactly. Because if we were following that right, Hunt the Weak was targeting the 2 Hardy Veterans, right? Reckless Rage in response, targeting your Hardy Veteran and my Needletooth. In response, I Aggressive Urge
the Hardy Veteran.
The Hardy Veteran. So that resolves first. It's a 3/5, right? Reckless Rage resolves. It has 4 damage. Needletooth Raptor dies. He can shoot the Atsakan Seer. And then the Hunt the Weak resolves, making the 4 damage Hardy Veteran a 4/6 that trades away with the other Hardy Veteran. Yeah.
Yep. All right, what do we have here?
Looks like a Mutiny.
Okay, so that's going to stem the bleeding on the Crested Herd Collar, but as we've seen, you're getting 2 for 1. You're getting 0 for 1. It's not, the math doesn't work out well. Mark, you've been down on the floor. You got an update for us?
Yes, I do. We're in the cut, and so we're watching these 5-1 matchups, but I have a report from, tables 1 and 2. I've heard about them. They're undefeated right now. The Lorenz brothers, who we saw in the feature match area earlier, they're still undefeated. Yep, and they're on table 1, and they have so far. There's 1 match win. They beat Adam Hicks from the team, Joe Angelo, Adam Hicks, and Jason German. So they just need 1 more to continue this Lorenz sweep here. And then on table 2, we have Shahar Shenhar, Lance Austin, and Oliver Tu, who we just saw, going up against PV, Ifro, and Ben S. Yeah, it's a pretty good match here. Shenhar and Paulo are tied at 1-1, and so they're going to game 3. But Lance Austin just lost a tough 3-game set to Ifro, who Austin had Alenda, the Dusk Rose, and he was, getting in there. But Ifro just had 4 different times to bounce it just over and over again and just tempoed him out. It was a classic tempo. So they are 1 match up right now, the team of Paulo, Ifro, and Ben S. So more reports later.
Thank you, Mark. And it looks like we came right back in time to watch this one end. And that was in Austin Bursavich's favor?
Yeah, back-to-back Crested Herd Collars kind of did the job.
Turns out. When you're trying to use damage-based removal, right, to kill your opponent's creatures, and they just go, here's 2 3/3s, here's another 2 3/3s. And by the way, there's that Divine Verdict from Bursavich who says, I did have it in my deck.
Wayward Swordtooth did exactly 0 that match, by the way.
It was really bad. Seriously bad. No extra land drops.
Nope.
No blocking.
Nope.
No attacking.
Nope.
It was really bad.
It was a permanent for Ascend.
Yeah, for itself.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a little better than be a permanent.
Sometimes, Marshall, we're all just permanents.
That's true. And I do feel for the Wayward Swordtooth, but you can't be proud of it. You know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah, 3 mana 5/5 later in the game.
That game was not a short game, Kenji.
Well,
that was later in the game and never got there. Oh boy. Let's see what we've got going on here. Ben Friedman versus Ryan Hare. We heard from Ben Friedman earlier in the day, and that's actually the graveyard. So this board isn't nearly as mucked up as it originally seemed. That is a Storm Fleet Sprinter, haste unblockable. It looks like it's chipping away at Ryan's life total, who's at 16, but Ben's at 4.
Yeah, wow. Effectively at 3, that Fanatical Firebrand chilling on the battlefield too.
Exactly. May have taken some damage from the Stormfleet Pyromancer as well.
Right, right. I think I see a Lightning Rig crew in Ryan Hare's hand too.
Is that another Needletooth Raptor as well?
Yep, for Ben Friedman there.
Well, he's going to need to do something with it. Instead, he's going to just dump 2 cards on the battlefield. Let's see what he's got. We see a Kite Sail Corsair. What's that behind it, Kenji?
It looks to be a Headstrong Brute, I think. But Ryan actually has lethal in 2 turns.
In 2 turns?
Right, so he plays the Lightning Rig this turn, passes. I believe he has 2 more Pirates in his hand. And in conjunction with the Lightning Rig crew and the Fanatical Firebrand will lead up to 4 damage.
He's going to attack in with his 3-2. It's going to get blocked. Ben not wanting to mess around, but he says, yep, sure, you got it. Lightning Rig crew resolves.
That was a good attack from Ryan. He wanted to bait the block of the Needletooth Raptor, see if, because the Raptor can kill the Lightning Rig crew should 1 damage be pushed onto it.
No, yeah, good point. And Ben would love any way to do any damage to that Raptor to get that Lightning Rig crew off the table. It's such a pain.
Although, I suppose maybe he doesn't have 2 Pirates in his hand if he didn't equip the Cutlass to his Rig crew?
Oh, yeah, why didn't he equip?
Maybe I missaw. Maybe like he has a Bravado in hand or something.
Moment of Craving or something like that?
Yeah. In which case, I think he would have already killed the Needletooth Raptor, though.
I think so, too. Although, we have to think of something. He didn't equip.
Right.
Be wildly mana inefficient to not equip with only 5. Like, there's a lot of cards he could draw that he'd want to cast as well next turn.
Well, just more importantly, getting that 6 toughness on the Lightning Rig crew seems huge here.
Absolutely. This is interesting. You can hear Ben Friedman talking to Seth as he kind of lays out the situation.
Right, because if Ben wins this game, then the middle match is irrelevant.
Exactly. Awesome Bursavich with the 2-0 over Anthony Ho, putting his team in commanding position to lock up day 2 here on our first half of the cut. We've got another round to bring you before we sign off for the day. That is the hand of the number 1 Magic player in the world.
I think he's going to force
I think you're right.
The Firebrand. All right, so Ryan should sack this in response.
Now, what is he worried about here? Explain it to us.
Like a Bombard to finish off.
Okay. Because as it stood,
right,
it was nothing, right? It was do 1 to this thing.
Was that a unfriendly fire his own Needletooth Raptor to enable the damage?
Boom.
Okay.
He had him either way, though.
Yes.
So good play from Ryan Hare to understand they're doing this for a reason.
Right,
I'm going to sack this thing.
Ryan had the Pirate's Cutlass that he didn't equip. That would have saved his creature.
Yes, it absolutely would have.
And it looks like, yeah, he just had 2 Pirates in his hand. He definitely had
I don't know if he wanted to try to bluff something or... But he left his Lightning Rig crew susceptible,
right?
And he got punished for it. I mean, sure, Ben Friedman had to jump through some pretty serious hoops to do it, but he did.
I think, is Ben hellbent except for that 1 card he just drew?
Yeah.
So
I mean, he had his last 2 cards were Mutiny and
Ryan does have lethal then.
Well,
if
the
Ben doesn't
Headstrong
have a
Brute's
way
not
to deal
blocking
with
either way, so it's going to get in.
That's not good enough. All right, so Ryan wins on the board. He just has to see the attack.
Yeah, he just needs to jam. And that's exactly correct. Wow. What a weird ending to that game, but it ends up going to Ryan Hare.
Interesting.
And he's going to have to kick himself for not equipping there.
Yeah.
All right. Mistcloak Herald on the battlefield here for Ralph Betesh as we go to game number 3 of our middle match.
Oh, great starts from both players.
No
1
kidding.
drop into 2 drop, both on theme, Vampires and Merfolk.
Premium stuff here from both players. And you got to like where Ralph Betesh is at here.
I mean, I like where both players are at. The Bishop Soldier is just the best 2 drop, basically, as far as commons are concerned. Like, lifelink is so huge in this format. There are just so many synergies with it now that you have Rivals of Ixalan added to the mix. You can add 1/1 counters, do it with Sanguine Glorifier. You can have Legion Lieutenant just to pump it up anyways. A bunch of other things that also benefit having that Vampire, especially on turn 2. I mean, this looks like a constructed start almost for both players.
You see Ho-Betesh kind of hedging his bets a little bit here. He used the Deep Root Elite trigger on the Commander's Speaker rather than on itself, or rather than on his unblockable. Kind of interesting. You know, gives him a better blocker for the Bishop Soldier.
I mean, if Seth doesn't have anything, a 3/3 just stops all of his creatures.
Well, how about Impale?
There it is. Let's see if Ralph has a way to prevent that.
Yeah, this is interesting because this is a short-term game, but you gotta feel like Ralph is going to be able to put up a blocker that can deal with these two measly ground creatures at some point.
Well, just look at the life totals. That Bishop Soldier is keeping Seth way ahead.
Yeah, it really is. Man, Impale's hardcore artwork. Look at that. Talk about heartburn, huh?
It's taking care of a vampire, though.
I guess you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
This was a pretty unexciting turn here for Ho-Betesh. Attack you for 1 go?
Yeah, 4 mana has a lot of potential. I mean, what you think about, what, 3/3 flash, give hexproof. You think about maybe run aground. You think about any number of bounce or pump effects. You can hear them talking about.
Yep, they're saying exactly what you were saying.
The double green 3/3.
You see that the pace of play is also slowing a little bit down. And that is because Seth is getting advice. He's going to go with Forerunner of the Legion. And let's see what he's got. Because he could have, I mean, you can get any vampire with that. Yeah. It could be Sanctum Seeker. It could be Vona. Oh, it's another.
Chain.
This can get really ugly. Their abilities do stack.
Yep.
And you can create some huge attackers using your Forerunner of the Legion. And, you know, you mentioned it before, but that Bishop Soldier doing good work. Well, how about, you know, a 3/3 and a 4/4 Bishop Soldier as we work our way up?
Yeah, if you can chain Forerunners, or even just a single Forerunner until like Queen's Commission or Call to the Feast.
Now, did you see that? Seth did not attack.
Right. But Ralph didn't do anything end of turn, and so Seth has to imagine that, you know, if Ralph had their 3/3 to flash, and he still would have done it to develop out his board.
To use his mana, right?
For sure.
Yeah, Swift Warden is the card that they were thinking of, but I agree with you.
Yep.
And look at this, Ho-Betesh seeing, okay, things are not going to go great for me with this Forerunner of the Legion plan and a lifelinker on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that thing down with the Water Knot right now.
So it looks like one of those Forerunners is, or rather, it looks like both of the Forerunners are on the battlefield. But remember, one's on top of Seth's library. Being
yeah, it does. It does visually look like that, but that one on the right's actually his library. Yeah, and there it is. So he draws it for the turn. Sometimes players will leave it face up on top of their library just as a courtesy to say, "I put this here. It's still the card I put there." And that's what Seth was doing there. And he's going to play another one. Now this is, if he has a third, he'll go get it. But if not, he's going to go get his most powerful castable vampire at this point.
I mean, Anointed Deacon is a common that you could very easily have.
Yep. And there it is, Anointed Deacon. And now when he plays Anointed Deacon next turn, he gets 2+1/+1 triggers from his Forerunners, and then when he goes to combat, it'll get +2/+0. You can see why Ralph was worried about the Bishop Soldier.
Well, now it's the Aspirant that's going to be a big problem because Seth just needs one more permanent to enable the City's Blessing.
And he's got that sitting on top of his library at the minimum. Well, it looks like he is offering a trade here, though.
Kind of. They're both two toughness creatures.
Oh, he spread them out?
Right.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, not really then.
Ralph would need
I mean,
to double
he could
block
trade
on the
both
surface.
creatures, but yeah, he would love. Seth would be loving that.
The thing is, if Ralph goes for something like a River Herald's Boon here, which he could very easily have, and what he was signifying last turn, Seth only needs Vampire Zeal, Slash of Talons, Moment of Craving, Moment of Triumph, even.
Yep.
You know,
name your moment if he's got it.
Any number of things.
Yep.
That could just instantly win the game, effectively. So I guess the only way to play around it and get 3 for 2'd would be to, like, if he has the River Herald's Boon, to put 1 counter on each creature, assuming it's not Vampire Zeal for the extreme first strike blowout.
Right. Woof. Not a great spot here for Ralph Betesh. Interestingly as well, if he does make the block and loses a creature, you know, he's probably going to lose the Elite and... you know, with just a 1/1 on the battlefield, it's hard to imagine him coming back anyway.
Yeah.
That is one of the things about this Merfolk deck is that when it does get the tables turned on it, it can have a hard time playing defense. People play Jade Bearer and Mistcloak Herald and stuff like that, and they don't block well.
Okay, so
wow,
both players pass priority.
And Ralph just accepts the 2 for 1 for the little measly 1 drop there from Seth Manfield. What a beating.
All right, we're going to need to see something like a Colossal Dreadmaw. Oh, no.
How about Deadeye Righauler?
No.
is that exactly the card you had in mind?
This is one of the reasons I think Vampires is probably the best racing deck in this format.
Agreed.
Like, not only are they good on offense, you can just swarm, which is so good in this format, but you also have a ton of ways to gain life, and you're in 2 of the premium removal colors. Whereas Merfolk, look, if Ralph had gotten ahead, sure, he could have pressed that advantage, but he fell behind early, and Seth gained at least 6 life, I think, off of that Bishop Soldier, and it's just made racing impossible.
Yep, that's right. A lot of low-impact cards from Ralph Betesh. You can see them in his yard there. And he's just now has to trade off again. Dude, his Apple Watch is cool, though. It has Brainstorm on it. You see that?
Right.
That's
so
sweet.
Jungleborn Pioneer can survive him a turn. Maybe Seth can run out of gas here if he has the Jungleborn. No,
how about a Vineshaper Mystic all on its lonesome there?
As we say, DOB.
Dobbs?
Dead on board.
Yep. Extra Dobbs. And that is going to be it. That is the round going to Seth Manfield, Austin Bursavich, and Ben Friedman. They are into day number 2. They'll still have one more round to play where they're going to try to improve their record going into day number 2 and only have 1 loss. And for Ralph, Anthony, and Ryan, well, they got work to do. They've got to win their last round if they're going to be in day 2. That's going to do it for our live coverage here in round number 7. We'll be back with Time Walk right after this. Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Grand Prix Indianapolis. That's Kenji Hare. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Welcome. We are in the cut. This is the last stretch of the day